Welcome, listeners. Today, we're going to cover Understanding Anxiety, Part 1. Now, I should say that none of the things we're covering today is meant to substitute for a professional if someone needs a professional in their life to help them. I advocate everyone who is going through a difficult time in their life to seek help from someone professional if they feel they need it. But at least we're going to cover the ideas of what anxiety is and the difference between the emotions of fear, anxiety, and panic. So you can determine if what you're feeling is just an emotion or is it a danger. And we can also say that there are ways, if one feels anxious about something, to use mindfulness and mindfulness apps to calm oneself down. Certainly take a breath, hold it, let it out. Hold it for about 4 seconds, let it out. Do that a couple of times. This can relax you and get you to think a little straighter. But there are times where you just need to act, especially if danger is involved, where it's the danger form of anxiety. So when possible, if it's not something like that, and it's an emotion, anxiety, then you can use mindfulness, meditation, yoga. And for those that use food as a satisfaction when you have anxiety, have handy things that you can eat, like cut vegetables ready to go, healthy snacks, healthy chips with good ingredients and protein and fiber, so that if you are going to munch, that you have a cabinet or a place that you go to or keep some in your car, that you can at least, not have other situations happen because you're anxious. So all of that is going to help you to try to live with anxiety or get rid of that anxiety. And part of it is to know what you can control in terms of something that's making you anxious, what you might influence at all, and what you have no control over. Once you understand what type of things you can do something about and what you can't, and where you might be able to move it along in some fashion, then you can try to deal with it in an intelligent way. Now, as far as understanding who gets anxiety, actually, anxiety can affect any kind of person at any stage in their life, whether they be an introvert or an extrovert, socially active or shy, youthful or elderly, male or female, wealthy or poor. Whatever your distinction, you can become anxious. And so other people are eligible to be anxious as well. You're not the only one. You're not alone. I went to visit my family in Chicago last month and told them I'm going to do an upcoming episode on anxiety. And they gave me some research sheets that I found very helpful, and I'm going to read some of it to you today. But there's a lot of work online for anxiety, and I have books that I'm going to recommend at the end. So take a pencil and paper for the end of the session and be ready to write them down if you want. All right, so we're going to talk about different kinds of anxiety and what they relate to. So there's a good anxiety when you're anticipating something good happening and you get anxious over it. So there's nothing bad, but you just feel anxious. But that anxiousness can cause a change in your heart rate, a change in certain involuntary things in your body. And so it's best to, you can be happy about something coming up and you're excited about something, but there's a difference between being anxious over it and being excited over it. So if you're having heart palpitations and things and anxiety over receiving an award or something good that's happening to you, just be happy and smile and try not to be anxious. Take some deep breaths and just know that good things are happening to you, and understand that that this is the best type of anxiety you can get, is something that's based on something good. We all would like something good happening to us, but just try not to send your body into contortions anticipating this goodness to come. But then you have anxiety that is based on other things. So let's take fear, because there's a similarity in the experience that we experience when it comes to fear and panic to anxiety itself. So let's say that we're walking in an alley and we feel that there is somebody that's going to attack us. We just sense that there's somebody around the corner looming. Well, this is a fear that's not based on fact, but yet it's still a valid fear, and your body reacts to it in the same way as a fact. Like an animal attacking you in the woods, that's real. And then you go to a sense of panic where you have to make immediate decisions, and I'll cover those decisions in a minute. So it's normal for everyone to feel in some way that something bad may be coming, something bad may happen, or feel that your work exposure, maybe something happened at work and you feel that a bad review is coming or something. But again, there are those anxieties that are based on something that is in front of you and is happening. Someone presents you with a bad report and said, now you're on report, you have a demerit, or you have a bad strike against you, and something that you anticipate there being an animal, or anticipate there being an attacker, or anticipate something bad at work happening when it hasn't happened yet. Okay. So when this occurs, in the sense, let's say that you feel this way, you may feel that you're in danger, but the reality is that you may not be. And so let's take when you actually feel that you have this danger coming, you have the experience of anxiety or fear, and you have a natural response, what they call fight or flight response. So our bodies react to threat or danger, real or imagined, in the same way. So when a number of changes occur. Now, this is normal. The decision whether to stand and fight or run, if you have an animal attack that's coming at you, these are immediate things that you don't have time to make a list or go into meditation or mindfulness. You have to act right away. So what affects us first is we have the physical system. This is our behavioral systems that are affected. There are physical, cognitive, and behavioral systems affected when you have this fight-flight response activated. So the first one is the physical system. When we believe we're in danger, whether we are or not, our whole physical system undergoes some temporary changes designed to be ready to fight. So physically, our brain sends a message to our autonomous nervous system, and the nervous system has two sections, a sympathetic branch and a parasympathetic branch. So these two sections control the physical changes that occur in the fight or flight response. Now, I don't mean to get too scientific, but I think it's helpful for the listeners to understand what's happening to them. Because many people feel, I'm crazy, something's going on, I'm nuts, but that's not the case. These are normal things that are going on in your body and normal reasons that it's happening. So that's why I'm explaining it in a way that you can understand that it's normal. Okay, so the first thing that you experience, the sympathetic nervous system releases two chemicals from the adrenal glands on the kidneys. These chemicals are called adrenaline and noradrenaline, and they are basically messengers that serve to maintain the physical changes for a sufficient amount of time. So what are these physical changes that the sympathetic mechanism produces when you are anxious? Number one is an increase in heart rate and strength of beat. One physical change that is quite noticeable to the person experiencing the fight-flight response is an increase in heart rate, strength of the heartbeat. Increase enables the blood to be pumped through the body faster, and that the oxygen gets delivered more promptly to the various tissues of the body, and waste products can be eliminated efficiently. Then secondly, a redistribution of blood from areas that aren't as vital as those that are. So a change in blood flow away from places that is not needed, such as skin, fingers, toes, toward the places that is likely to be needed, like large organs and muscles. And this is very useful because if we are attacked and cut in some way, we'd be less likely to bleed to death if our body is rearranging its cells like that. The blood will be with the vital organs. The physical change results in the skin looking pale and feeling cold often, and also in the experience of cold, numb, and tingling fingers and toes. And if you experience this, it doesn't mean that you have to go to the emergency room right away. It just means that you may be having this response to the fear or danger that you surmise. Also, an increase in the rate and depth of breathing. So beside changes to the heart rate, this is very important because it provides the tissues with an extra amount of oxygen required to prepare you for action. The feelings produced by this increase in breathing can include breathlessness, choking, smothering feelings, tightness, and pain in the chest, and sighing and yawning. So if you feel any of these things, it's a normal response to anxiety. Side effects of this increase in breathing is that the blood supply to the head is actually decreased. This is not dangerous, but can produce a collection of unpleasant symptoms, including dizziness, lightheadedness, blurred vision, confusion, feelings of unreality, and hot flushes. So again, you could think something's wrong with you, but these are normal physiological reactions. You could have an increase in sweating. Another physical change in this is the sweating, and causes the body to become more slippery, making it harder for a predator to grab onto you, and also cooling the body and thus preventing it from overheating. These are all natural things. A widening of the pupil or the eyes, the pupils of the eyes would be the next. And this is to let in more light, which may result in the experience of blurred vision, spots before the eyes, or just a sense that light is too bright. And this enables a person to do more to be more effective in using their sight to identify any hidden dangers, someone lurking in the shadows. So that's why your body goes into that. You also might experience a decreased activity of the digestive system, a decreased activity that allows more energy to be diverted to the systems more immediately related to fight or flight. The range of effects you might notice as a result of this body change are a decrease in salivation, resulting in a dry mouth or decreased activity in the digestive system, and often produces feelings of nausea, heavy stomach, or even constipation. Again, this may not be something that's wrong with your health. It's just the body reacting to this stimulus. And then lastly, muscle tension. That, many of the muscle groups are preparing for fight or flight, and it results in subjective feelings of tension, sometimes aches and pains and trembling and shaking. The whole physical process is a comprehensive one that often leaves the individual feeling quite exhausted. But again, these are just normal body responses that have been studied by science. Now, the behavioral system also has something different. The two main behaviors associated with fear and anxiety are to either fight or flee. Therefore, the overwhelming urges associated with this response are those of aggression, a desire to escape wherever you are, and sometimes it's not possible due to where you are and social constraints. And so people often express the urges through behaviors such as foot tapping, pacing, or snapping at people. It's important to know when you see others doing this that may be the reason, maybe going through something that they fear or that they perceive as fear. The cognitive system, very often the objective is to alert the person to a possible existence of danger. And a major cognitive change that is the individual begins to shift their attention to the surroundings to search for a potential threat. And this accounts for the difficulty in concentrating that people who are anxious experience. This is a normal and important part of the fight-flight response, and its purpose is to stop you from attending to your own ongoing chores and to permit you to scan your surroundings for possible danger. Sometimes an obvious threat can't be found. So unfortunately, most of us cannot accept having, not having an explanation for something, and end up searching within themselves for an explanation, and often results in people thinking there's something wrong with them, like we said, or going crazy or dying. But it doesn't have to be. It could mean, these other things that the body is preparing for that. And so once the danger has abated, the body begins a process of restoration back to a more relaxed state. And as a result, the heart rate begins to slow and the breathing rate slows down, the body temperature begins to lower, the muscles begin to relax, And part of the process of restoration is that systems do not return to normal straight away. Some residual effects of the fight-flight response remain for some time and only gradually taper off. This can leave the individual feeling keyed up for some time afterwards. This helps to understand why people can feel anxious for ongoing periods of time, even when no obvious stressor is present. So, please understand, if you see someone that's going through this, that this could be the reason why they still have it. You might say to them, well, this threat no longer exists and this didn't happen, and why do you still feel this way? And so this is trying to explain that this is normal. This is the body reacting to coming down from being in this state. Okay. Now, we're going to cover what possible causes there are for anxiety, but when you have anxiety, I want to just reiterate that it's helpful if you're not under immediate threat with an attacker or an animal, if that's not the kind of stress, if it's something else that's stressing you out. I think it's important to do what we were talking about when we opened, is that make a list of the things you can control, the things you might influence, and the things that you can't control at all. Because if you can't do anything about it, you got to let it go. There's no reason in hurting yourself any further. Just try to realize that it's done, it's over with, and move on to whatever you can do next and learn from it. But if you can control it, if there's something you can do, then do it. If you're being attacked, run away. If you have to stay and fight, and that's the only option, then your body is preparing for it. It's whatever you have to do to stay alive and to stay well. And hopefully none of this happens in that way to you, but a lot of things can stress you out that have nothing to do with immediate danger. It has to do with, work performance, relationship performance, or any number of things in that vein. But try to grasp the difference between those things you can and cannot control. And then the things you might be able to influence, you take a chance at influencing. If there's no guarantee that you can control the situation or correct the situation, but you have a chance to make a difference and maybe correct it, take that chance. Anything you could possibly influence, take that shot and try to do it better. If you had something happen at work and you think you screwed up, just ask if you can do an extra project to make up for it. Tell them, I'm not sure I did that other one the right way, but I'm happy to do something to make up for it if you give me the opportunity. But whatever it is that you can influence to make something right, if you have something you did wrong, you think in your relationship, you certainly have a chance to make up for it and do it right. Just own up to it and tell your other half that you're going to attempt to correct that action in the future that you did that upset that person, but that also you'd like to do something to make up for it. It's always good to acknowledge when you did something and you have a part in something. Sometimes you can be anxious for things that you didn't cause at all. Things happen. And just the way of the world, you have money invested in the stock market, and the stock market might go down. And so you might be stressed over that, and there's nothing you can do about it. Just know it's in the category of no control. The only thing you can influence in is if you pull out at a certain point and not lose any more. Well, luckily, the stock market reacted favorably to the fact that the feds aren't raising the rates. So, this is good news. It might cause anxiety in the good sense that you're not going to lose money. But again, identifying which falls into what category could be very helpful in helping you get through what you're going through. So let's talk about what could possibly cause anxiety. Well, a combination of factors which results in anxiety disorder differ from person to person, but there are some major factors that have been identified which can be common to sufferers. These factors can be effectively divided into biological and psychological causes. Now, biological factors, a genetic factor has been linked to the development of anxiety disorders. For example, in obsessive compulsive disorder, about 20% of first-degree relatives have also suffered from the condition. overall, based on family studies, it's been suggested that individuals may inherit a vulnerability to developing an anxiety disorder. And then they have psychological factors. Having this genetic vulnerability does not imply that those individuals will develop an anxiety disorder, but a great deal depends on the lifestyle of that person, the types of life stressors that they're encountering, and their early learning. For example, if we were taught to fear certain neural situations as a child, it can become difficult to extinguish these learned patterns of behavior. So therefore, we may have developed certain patterns of thinking and behaving which contribute to the development of anxiety disorder. So if this is the case, you can also go to a professional and seek help that way, or you can take a list of the books that I'm going to give you and see if they can help you. But we understand as an overall summary of anxiety that it's an important emotion that serves to protect us from harm, whether it's real or imagined, but it serves a function, okay? And for some people, the fight or flight response has become activated in situations where no real danger is present. And so in those cases, which vary from person to person greatly, you can, as we gave some examples before, you just have to try to realize, if you can, whether this is a real danger or not, as best as you can. And some anxiety is functional, enables us to get at work on time, meet demands, and cross streets properly, and remain aware of our surroundings. So we're not saying not to be aware and not to be concerned about things, but just try to understand if what you're feeling is an emotion of panic that something is real, or a fear that hasn't happened yet, and then try to deal with it accordingly, and put up your emotional and physiological responses to it, and protect yourself as best as you can, or let it go if you realize it's not really something happening. There are some books that I really like that I thought maybe you might be interested in. For those that are willing to read about this, there's a book called Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns. It's subcaptioned New Mood Therapy for people that have moods. Healing the Child Within by Dr. Charles Whitfield. The Anxiety and Phobia Workbook by Dr. Edmund Bourne, Bourne. The Anxiety and Worry Workbook by Dr. David Clark and Dr. Aaron Beck. The Anxiety Toolkit by Dr. Alice Boyes. I think you'll enjoy that one. And a book called On Edge, A Journey Through Anxiety by Dr. Andrea Peterson. And these are all ones that I think you'll get a lot out of, but there's some classics that you'll enjoy as well, but they're a little different. One is called The Road Less Traveled by Dr. Scott Beck, and Scott talked about grappling with the difficulties of life in a way that would make sense. That's Road Less Traveled by Dr. Scott Beck. There are audiobooks about it. I think you'll enjoy it. It's got great reviews. And then the other is When Bad Things Happen to Good People by Rabbi Harold Kushner. Again, a little different angle, but certainly a book that's interesting to read. But looking at things, reading, and trying to analyze where the stress of anxiety is coming from. Is it real? Is it imagined? Can you control it? Can you not? These are all within your control if you are willing to look at things objectively and take yourself out of it and breathe a little bit. Then do some meditation and go to mindfulness apps. Do yoga if that's your calling, if that helps you relieve it. And find some way to relax in the state that you're in, if you can. It's true that sometimes when we're in this state, we don't want to think about any ways of controlling it. We don't want to consciously try to change anything except we're feeling this way and we don't know what to do and we're anxious. But if it's at all possible to use any of these techniques to put you on the right path, I think that it would be helpful to understanding the stress of anxiety and know that it's normal feeling this way, and try to influence anything you can to correct it and not have the anxiety if you can, or do something that you know will control it if you can. And when you have to avoid a car wreck and swerve around a car, you have no time to think. It kicks in immediately. Your fear of flight, and you'll go around that car to avoid an accident. And there are many, instances where you just react normally, naturally, and no thinking involved. And then there are other times where the anxiety dwells because it's something that's not going to be over in a second when you go around that car and avoid the crash. So there's no simple answer to anxiety, but these are things that might help. And until we get to part 2 another time with more tools for it, I think that this could be a good guide. If you listen and enjoy, then I'm very happy for you. And I'm always hoping that you wake up every morning with happiness and a smile and start off right. And the next one we're going to do will be on happiness. And thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful day.